Etie versus ALCRYST. Who is the better archer? All right, in this video, I want to break down this debate. First of all, I think this is the wrong debate. I think ALCRYST is a low investment archer that you can run if you want to shoot down flyers. There's better options than either of them. If you're just trying to be optimal, if you like either of the units, both of them have viable builds. Both of them can be made into maybe hard carries to some degree. Like Etie, she could kind of be like a warrior hard carry, but you have to invest a lot of resources into her. And ALCRYST, if you want to keep him on his like covert archer line, on his unique class, he can be a good player phase unit. But I don't think this is the correct discussion. Really, I think Etie is competing with Amber. I'm kind of coming out of left field on this one to some degree, but hear me out. All right, so here, this save file is perfect to demonstrate why this is. This is an Etie that has hit level 10, so I actually used her throughout my entire first playthrough to constantly shoot things down. These are her stats on Archer, okay? So this is as good as she could get by the time you get Amber, arguably, without using DLC or some kind of exploit from just like using her. But I know that she got to like level like 7 by the time I got Amber, and then she hit level 10 as I did chapter 11 and so on, because I did use her on chapter 10 and 11. So she leveled up on 9, 10, and 11 to hit level 10. So this is like the best use case. Even in her best use case of hitting level 10 by the time you get Amber, assuming that this is what happens, let's look at her stats. So let's change her into a warrior. All right, so I'm about to blow everyone's mind. All right, here are her stats. 19 strength, 12 dex, 11 speed, 7 defense, 6 res, 10 luck. All right, and then her health, 32, her build, 8. Now I screenshotted these so that I can compare them to Amber. All right, so Amber joins at level 11. This is a 0 investment Amber. All right, so let's change him into warrior. Okay, so he has more strength. He has more magic, but that doesn't matter. He has the same dex, the same speed. He has 2 more defense. He has 2 less res, though. Arguably, the defense is better for tanking. He has 1 less luck. He has 2 more build, and he has 3 more health. So if you invest in Etie hardcore and give her Mercurius and do all these things to set her up, she is still objectively worse than Amber. Like, you can't refute this right here. This is like a math thing. He has more build, he has more strength. He also has 5% more strength growth than her, and his growths are very similar and on average better, and he has more HP growth. So he ultimately will just be more tanky. So aside from stats, like just raw stats, what other factors are there? The investment cost. So if you want to get Etie to level 10 by the time you get Amber, you're going to have to really go out of your way to level her up. You're going to have to like have hard carry units that would scale better into the end game, not get XP. So Amber doesn't have this cost. Amber, you just get him on chapter 8, and then you can just throw him on, you know, whatever class. You can immediately master and then second seal him into warrior, because I believe post chapter 8 is when you get second seals. He also has, so he doesn't have the opportunity cost, he has better stats, and also he has a better passive. Aspiring Hero is actually really good on warrior, especially if you want him to be using a bow, because it gets you hit plus 20 as long as you or the target aren't near anything, aren't adjacent to anything. And this is an easy condition to meet, because most flyers, when they spawn in on maps, assuming this is what his main job is going to be, is shooting down flyers, they will be in staggered formations and will not be next to each other. And the game does this on purpose, I think, to prevent certain things like override being used on them and torrential from being as effective. But most flyers are isolated and off on their own. In some cases, they're not, but he has a hit plus 20 passive. And both him and Etie will have hit issues. Her passive is very situational and just increases her damage. But the funny thing is her passive just pushes her damage up to his base strength. So he just has an objectively better passive. He has no investment cost. He has better strength growth. He has better health growth. He also has better build. He basically does everything she does, but better around a similar availability. All right, so he has better, lower investment, better stats, better passive. What else does he have? Let's go over his supports, because supports matter, especially when you're trying to increase hit rates, crit rates, or avoid. Especially on these two, you're looking to increase hit rates. So Etie support, everyone has a support with the Lear. She has Saline, Clan, Lapis, Boucheron, Goldmary, Panette, Fagato, Yunaka. Now of these, I would say Fagato, Panette, Goldmary, and Alir are the best ones. So depending on your team comp, so she could hang out with Panette and Goldmary. These are like units people run commonly. Fagotto sees some use. Yunaka potentially, and then on Amber, he has Alir, Chloe, Marin, Sidal, Panette, Zelkov, and then like Diamant and Vander. But of those, Chloe, I would argue, is the best early game unit by far. She can completely carry an early game. Marin is a very strong, similar to Chloe type unit. Sidal is obviously in the metagame. Panette is in the metagame. So he has slightly better supports. Not that much better, but definitely slightly better. All right, so let's say you don't agree he has better supports. That's fine. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Well, she has access to Silver Bow, right? Don't worry, I'm going to address that too. All right, Silver Bow versus Steel Bow. Okay, cool, I have one of each. Silver Bow is very expensive to upgrade, so much so that you probably won't be able to do that. You won't be able to upgrade it as much. And Steel Bow is significantly cheaper to upgrade. So in terms of other B rank bows, it's really just Silver Bow as far as I know. I don't think there's anything else. So having C rank, you have access to Radiant Bow, Steel Bow, Long Bow, Killer Bow, like all the major bows that are good. But Steel Bow is arguably better than Silver. Okay, so here are the base stats. So 10 might versus 13. So obviously the Silver Bow is going to be hitting harder. It also weighs more. But upgrading, so let's say you want to upgrade Steel Bow to +3. Very cheap to do this. So it gets it to 14 might, 6 weight, so it's weightless on either of them. Hit becomes 85, and then it has 5 crit. So you're just looking at 1 silver, 6 steel, 180 iron. Pretty cheap, 1.8k. Now let's say you want to upgrade the Silver Bow. So +1ing this is pretty reasonable. You get +2 damage. So this is pretty good. But getting it to +3, the damage increases are at +1, +3, and +5. So getting it to +3 is probably what you're going to end up with, because player phase archers that are just shooting things aren't going to be hard carries for the most part. You could upgrade it to +5, but you're looking at 20 silver, 800 iron, and 100 steel, which is a significant amount of resources. 20 silver is like a third of your total silver throughout an entire playthrough. So you have to kind of factor that in. That's without DLC. You're looking at Silver Bow +3. So 5 silver, 30 steel, 300 iron. So 17 might, 90 hit, 9 weight, right? 0 crit. All right, now compare that to Steel Bow +3, which is substantially cheaper and only costs you 1 silver. It just has a little bit more might. Well, it has a good amount more might. But for a slightly increased cost, like let's say you want to get Steel Bow to +5, you're looking at 16 damage, 90 hit, 10 crit, 5 weight. Now the only difference is it costs more, I think like 300 more iron and 20 more steel. If you have Brodia level 4 and you do all the Brodia paralogs, you can easily upgrade this. It's not going to be a problem. You'll have a ton of iron and a ton of steel. So this is more reasonable, but you just stay at +3 for very cheap throughout most of the playthrough, and then eventually +5 it if you want. But +5 is like similar in cost to +3 the silver. So you're looking at 16 damage, 90 hits, 10 crit, 5 weight, versus the silver's 17 damage, 90 hit, 0 crit, 9 weight. So it has less weight, 1 less damage, and then same hit rate, and it also has 10 more crit. So of the two of them, they're very similar. And honestly, I prefer steel. I think steel's a little bit better. Because you don't have to, you can leave it at +3 the whole time, and you're probably fine. And then if you need the extra damage, you can get it. But Amber has higher damage too, so that factors in, right? Like he has +2 more strength on her and when they're both at level 10. Like, because she's not going to be level 11 when you upgrade her. You're going to struggle to get her to level 10. You're going to have to do, like at the same time you get him, he's always going to be ahead of her. That's the problem, right? That's really the problem with some units in this game, is just that other units are just always ahead of them in terms of bases. He also has better strength, like slightly better strength growth, and he has build growth, which is something she kind of struggles with. So if we actually go over their growth rates, so Etie, she is 45% HP, 40% strength, 25% dex, 35% speed, 25% defense, then 5% build. And then for Amber, he's 65% HP, so 20%, so that's 2 more points of HP per 10 level ups than her. He has 5% more strength than her. He has the same dex. He has 5% less speed than her. Both of their speed growth is kind of negligible. Like, they're not going to be doubling very consistently. And then he has 10% more defense growth. He does have less res than her. He does have more luck, but he also has 15% build. On Warrior, that's 20% build. He will get... The funny thing is, she has 5% build, his 15. His lack of speed matters less because he has more build than her. And if you understand how this game works, build is speed. And if you're using heavy bows and you're using heavy axes, high build actually matters. So his build stat offsets his slightly reduced speed by 5% compared to her, and he's actually going to end up being faster than her because he's going to have more build. He has 2 more points of build at base than her, and he gets more build over time. So the reason I wanted to make this video, it's not because I hate Etie or I have some desire to ruin her career, even though essentially that's what I'm doing by making this video. The reason I'm making this video is I feel like people are making this weird comparison of a low investment archer to a high investment archer, and then saying that because she has higher base damage than him, she just overshadows him, but she requires more investment than ALCRYST, and he also has a passive that puts his strength level at hers. So if you actually put him on Warrior, funny enough, I'm going like over all this stuff. If you put him on Warrior, he has 2 fewer points of strength than her, but 1 more build than her. And he has more speed, and he has more dex. So if you put him on Warrior, he has 10% less strength growth than her, and 2% less strength overall. But he can double more consistently because he has higher speed and speed growth, and he has more accuracy, and he has higher dex growth, and more health, and more defense, and I think similar res. I think her res is like at 6. Yeah, so she has slightly more res, but he has slightly more defense. So it's not even like clear that she's that much better than him, even on Warrior. But the other thing too is like, if you're comparing a level 11 ALCRYST being second sealed into Warrior and a level 11 Etie, you're like throwing out the fact that you've invested all this early game XP and kills into her. Whereas with the ALCRYST, you just get it for free. So that's like a thing that people commonly ignore and, argue. And the other thing too is like with ALCRYST, you can easily have him one rounding if you just throw Lunar Brace on him. It's really that easy. And then if you get his dex to like 50, which is not hard to do because he has like ridiculous dex growth on his main class, he will consistently Lunar Brace and Luna trigger and just like melt things. So for lower investment, you get a more consistent archer. And then if you want to argue the strength route, Amber outshines her in every way. He has better supports, he has better bases, he has better availability, he has 800 starting SP, he has better build. He has this hit increasing passive that's very easy to play around, especially with ranged weapons. I tested it. It works with ranged weapons. It works with longbows. So you can just give yourself hit plus 20. whenever an enemy is isolated, he can just, he doesn't even have to be that far away from allies. He just has to not be next to anything. So, all right. So I hope this puts to rest the Etie hysteria. I'm not saying Etie is a bad unit or that you can't make a good Etie. Like, obviously you can with investment. That's like part of the thing with this game. Any unit can be good with enough investment. But in terms of if you want to be optimal, there's definitely better options. So, all right. So really the conversation should be about Etie versus Amber. ALCRYST is just kind of being dragged into this for some reason. Like, really she's competing with every warrior in the game. So she's competing with like Panette Warrior, Amber Warrior, Fagato Warrior, all the warriors, right? And compared to the warriors, I don't think, like 1-to-1, I just don't think she has it. She's just slightly worse. She's not that much worse, but she's like definitely not as good as Amber. All right, so that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Feel free to post your Etie arguments down below, and I'm open to hearing them. All right, peace.